Alright, this is the elderberry I picked out of the woods yesterday. I picked about 70 pounds of this. I live in the Midwest of Illinois, so this is pretty, you pretty much find these plants anywhere along the tree lines and stuff. They're kind of hard to spot in this time of year in August, the second week of August, but if you keep an eye out for them in the springtime, you'll see the white blooming flowers, and then you can pretty much know where you want to go back, go pick them. But what I do is I'll just run my fingers through here like this, and the berries fall off pretty nice. And some people actually freeze this, and then they'll take it and they'll stick it in like a bucket, 5-gallon bucket, and like just shake it like that, and the berries fall off pretty nice. So that's whichever way you like doing it, you know. But what I like doing is I like to kind of clean these when they're fresh like this, and then we can wash them real good, and and then I'll clean them up real nice, and then we'll put them in the freezer, and then freeze them for about a week, and then that make the berries real juicy, make them real nice and soft, and then I'll go ahead and press them next. Now you don't have to press them, you can actually just put them in a bag and squeeze them by hand. They're pretty soft after you freeze them, and you know, get them nice and soft and mushy like that. But you know, I bought a press, and I kind of like using the press, so I'll just use that fruit press, and we'll go to the next step. Alright, so your berries have been in the freezer for a couple days, and I just unthawed them. So what I'm going to do now is you can dump these in a bag and start squeezing the juices out of it by hand, which that's what I used to do, but now I bought a fruit press, so I'm going to press them now and squeeze all the juice out of it, and then we'll add that to the primary, and we'll also add the pulp part of it to the primary and leave it in the bag and put it in the primary also. So we'll get going on that. Now right here I've got 24 pounds of berries. The recipe only calls for maybe 3 or 4 pounds per gallon. I like to use a little extra because as I ferment it and do my transfers, I just add water to it. Alright, so I'm going to start sticking the berries in the press. I'm pressing it. It's got a lot of juice to it, so be careful. And a lot of berries here. I'm going to put 24 pounds of berries in here. And you don't have to use quite that much. You can about 4 pounds per gallon. But as you're fermenting it and you're doing your transfers, you end up topping it off a lot. So I like to put extra flavor in there to make up for that. You know, topping it off all the time and whatnot. We'll get a lot of juice on this. Makes a really nice bold wine. A lot of my friends that get back that like wine, they like my elderberry wine the best. So it's a little bit harder to make than everything else, but it's well worth it. Alright, got all the berries about in there. Has a lot of berries too. That. What I'll do is I'll put some water in these bags too and add that too here once I get this pressed on. Look at that juice coming out of there. And it's pouring out right now. I haven't even started pressing yet. Now what I'll do is I use this bag to ferment with too. So the same bag I got in the press, I just pull that right out. Now one thing I do is I take a little bit of this pulp out of this bag before I stick it in the actual bucket because it takes up too much space. So I'll take about 2/3 of it out, maybe half, and then stick the rest of the bag in there so I can get my natural tannins and stuff. But we'll let that go for a few minutes and then we'll start put another bucket under there and get that going there. Alright, we'll pour some of this in the bucket. Look at how it's like Concord grape, just about. We'll get this pressed some more. I bought this press a few years ago. It's pretty nice. I don't know the name brand of it off the top of my head, but it does work very well. Let's see it coming out. I'll let that go for a little bit longer. And I'll show you the next step of what I do to make elderberry wine. Alright, so I'm done pressing the berries, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of this out of here. I don't quite need all this that's in here, because what happens is if I put this whole piece in here, that it will take up a lot of my, I'll have to add a lot more water to top it off with, so I'm just going to take a little bit of this out. Not a lot. I don't want quite the hell that in there. Get out of here. Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to stick the rest of this in my primary. Let me tie the end off here. And I'm going to stick that in there. And now we'll start adding some more ingredients to that. Alright, so we got the bag in the primary and the juices in there. There's the bag in here. Tied at the top. Got a little chunk of berries in there. What we're going to do is we're going to start adding water to this. Now I don't want to put the whole 4 or 5 gallons in there right at once, because I want to add sugar to it. And as I start adding my sugar to it to get my specific gravity to start coming up, and then I'll have too much sugar in there, not enough water, you know. So we'll just gradually add both to the mixture until we get to our 6 gallon mark. Alright, so I've added water up to this point. It looks like about 2.5 gallons of water, and it says I got about 4.5 gallons here. Oh no, wait, I'm a little bit over 5 US gallons. So what I do is I'll stop there with the water, because we're going to start adding a little sugar to it to get to our specific gravity that we need. Alright, so I'm going to start adding my sugar to it. And we'll probably use this whole bag, so start with, we'll put about 2/3 of this in there and check the specific gravity. Now this one here, this batch of wine here, we're going to make it at 1.095. That's what our starting point is going to be. So we'll start adding this to it. And that's about 2/3 of the bag. We'll stop there, stir it in, and check it. So we're going to check the specific gravity again and see where we're at here. And we're about 1.082. So we're going to add a little bit more sugar. And we're going to go ahead and get the water up just a little bit higher. So I'm usually going for this ring right here, so I'll stop a little shy of that. Now the directions on this one says it could be between 1.095 and 1.100. Okay, so I've got the sugar all mixed in and the water mixed in. It's up to the level I like right about here, so it's reading exactly 9.5. So that's pretty good. Maybe 9.6. So we'll call that good. Alright, what we're going to do now is we're going to, since we've got the sugar in there and the water where we want it, we're going to start adding the chemicals that is recommended for this type of wine. So let me get those out and we'll show you what we add to it. Okay, so what I'm going to add to this is I might add 1 teaspoon of yeast nutrient per gallon. I got about 6.5 gallons, so I'll do a half one too. Then we're going to add 6 teaspoons of acid blend. A half one. Okay, then we're going to do 6 candle tablets. You got crushed though. And then we'll mix all that in. We'll let that sit for 24 hours. I'm going to put the lid on this. We'll let it sit for 24 hours, and then tomorrow we'll add the yeast to it. And then we'll keep track of it for the next few days. And once the specific gravity hits about 1.035, we're going to transfer it over to the secondary. So it'll still be fermenting when we stick it in the secondary. Sometimes people just like to let it go till it's done fermenting and it's primary. They might let it sit in here for about a week, but this directions here call for transferring at about 1.030, 1.035, something like that. So when we get ready to do that part, which will be probably about 2 or 3 days. Alright, so we put the lid on it, we put the airlock on it, and we put some water in the airlock. It's all ready to go. We'll let this sit for 24 hours and we'll let the temperature even out. Right now it's 57 degrees according to this thermometer. So my house is about 72, so tomorrow will be about 72. It should be pretty good and should ferment just fine. Okay, it's been 24 hours. And temperature is sitting exactly at 72 degrees, which I think that worked just fine. So anyway, I got the yeast ready. I'm going to use this red packet of Red Star. which is the pastoral red. I made a batch of elderberry about a month ago. I started a different batch. In that batch I used the blue. So I'm going to compare the two and see which one, when they're both finished, which one I like the best. But anyway, all you got to do is just take this and sprinkle. Then we'll mix this up. And you don't have to mix it. That's what I like to do. You can sprinkle on top and let it go. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Alright, that's ready to go. What we'll do is we'll let that sit for about 2 days, and then we'll check it. And then we'll check the specific gravity and see what it's at. But like I said, in about probably about 4 days, 4 or 5 days, we'll probably be transferring this over to a secondary. So we'll see you in 2 days.